Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the cameraman. That's fine.
Good afternoon. Today, the adventure begins. I'm going to college at East Texas University, and I'll be taking my first classes in paranormal psychology with Professor Glenn Mack, as they call him. I don't understand what all the girls see in this guy. I mean, maybe it's his Scottish accent, but I plan on getting something out of the class more than just his phone number. Now, this may sound funny coming from me, living in Hampton, but I'm really going to East Texas University as part of my Savage Worlds game on Saturdays at Ace. The other members of my Saturday group are going too. I got my acceptance letter and my student ID at our last game session, and I'm ready to get this game on the road. Now let me explain how the game is played. It's easy, exciting, and fun. It has twists and turns that take you on the craziest adventures and the most unlikely places. Author Ethan Gildorf tells us of his addiction to the game Dungeons and Dragons in his book, Fantasy Freaks and Gaming Geeks, an epic quest for reality among role players, online gamers, and other dwellers of imaginary realms. That's a mouthful. Though it is a fantasy role-playing game, Savage Worlds is not too similar to Dungeons and Dragons. The amount of math that Dungeons and Dragons has causes people not to want to play it because there's so many statistics and rolling of the character that it just seems like a lot. So people will start playing Savage Worlds because of the die type being the statistic for the character, not mathematical equations. East Texas University is a modern campaign, which means it takes place in present day and in this time period. Now, there are many different adventures and time periods that characters can get into. Fantasy, alien wars, alternate history, weird history, and Cthulhian lore, just to name a few. Not by Hensley, who wrote the book Savage Worlds. The first thing we'll need is our supplies. Now, Savage Worlds Deluxe states that it's always good to have pencil, either mechanical or wood, and more than one. You never know what's going to happen. A single six-sided die, which I don't seem to have with me, to use as a wild die. As you can see, my cameraman holding up a wild die from Savage Worlds. This should always be a different color so you can know which one it is. Thank you. And you should have at least a set of dice, what are called polyhedral, or many-sided dice. You should have a 4, an 8, a 6, and most sets come with 2 10s, a 12, and a 20. Standard sets, as you can see on the playmat, standard sets are one of each with a double on the 10-sided. A regular deck of playing cards is also good, but most of the time you'll end up having that supplied by your game master. Your character sheets, which you can find in the back of the book, or your game master will also have copies of these character sheets, and the book Savage Worlds Deluxe, which is about $30 and well worth the investment. Now, according to Pinnacle Entertainment, they are the ones who supply the Savage Worlds accessories, bennies, figures, maps, cards, and even special wild dice help you to survive the encounters of savage worlds. Within the savage worlds are a vast number of settings, or what you would call universes. My group just finished a campaign that we started in the Wild West in the 1880s and then went to London. We fought a vast number of bad guys, had a lot of fun, and ended up in London doing the Jack the Ripper murder case and solving it, by the way. We even killed Captain Kidd, the notorious pirate, along the way and collected a very good bounty. Well, now that we have our gear and supplies, let's look at how the game is actually played. With our character sheet in front of us, it's time to read the rules. There are two kinds of traits, attributes and skills. These create your character. And they can range from a D4, which is on your low end of the scale, to a D12. And this is your high end of the scale. This is Superman, and D6 is your average. So you can see there's benefits to getting your skills increase. Now, traits are the things that help you know what a character can and cannot do. If a character rolls badly for, say, riding a horse, he'll probably fall off and fall to the ground. Now, the GM will tell you what to roll and when to roll for it. Usually, if you don't have a skill, it starts as a D4. And that, like I said, is the bottom of the line. Now, for when rolling traits or combat damage or any other things, the target number, or the number that we're looking for, is usually a 4. Because if you get a 4 or higher, you usually beat the character. Now, in rolling your dice, they have something called acing. And acing means, for example, on a 6-sided die, if I roll a 6, it means I get to roll it again. And I can add that to my next roll. So if I keep acing, my rolls can go very high as far as damage or combat or whatever it is. And there's also something called raises. If you get 4 points above whatever number your target is, it's called a raise. After the raise, that is put toward your damage, and that is also part of how you kill off your bosses. Now, if grappling for treasure, you have what's called an opposed roll. And the opposed roll means that the other character will get to roll as well. And whoever has the highest wins. Now, wild cards are the best kind of character, and they're what usually players play. They have the higher number of wounds that can be done to them, and they're a little more sturdy than the extras. During the creation process, you can do hindrances, you can do edges, you can create your person to be whoever and whatever you want them to be. Edges are not always good or bad, but they can be both. Same with hindrances. Hindrances can be good and bad. Weapons, gear, combat, all of these add to or take away from your character. Now, once you get down the basic mechanics of the game, the rest of it is just your pure imagination. When the GM starts the story off, you take it from there. You create with your other players exactly what is going to happen. The only thing that you really need for a good RPG is to have a good imagination and be creative. I mean, things can get a little strange, but you can get very creative. Now remember, when you're in game, you talk as the character, not as yourself. So in character, I am Velma, not Diana. Now, in conclusion, ETU Savage Worlds can be played by any number of people, and it can be as little as a game master and one player. But the more the merrier, and the more interesting it can be. ETU is going to be like a combination of Scooby-Doo meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And So, with all this information in mind, you're now ready to play. The table is ready, the GM is waiting. Bring your imagination and a drink and be ready for anything. Scooby-Doo, where are you?
Running from a scream like that.
Thank you, and have a great day.